Welcome to the Calprop channel. Thank you for finding the time to watch us, and I'm going to explain everything you need to know on how to build an ADU or accessory dwelling unit in San Diego, California, with an emphasis in coastal zones and North County cities, including the city of San Diego. And I mean everything in a series of easy to follow ADU segments. Let's get ready for the most content-filled information on building an ADU in San Diego, California, also known as secondary housing units, granny flats, garage conversions, in-law suites, and get your kids out of the house accessory units. Just kidding, or not. Hi everybody, my name is Zaccaglini, and I am a home and ADU builder, general contractor, land developer, real estate broker, and a certified project management professional, or PMP, by the Project Management Institute. You can learn more about me in the Calprop Group using the links below in the comments section, or visit us at calprop.com for our contact information. I am pleased about this opportunity to share all of our ADU experiences and knowledge, and we will be presenting a series of 8 video segments on everything you need to know on how to design, permit, and build an ADU. This first part video, an introduction to ADUs, will provide you with everything you need to know to get started on an ADU, if you are eligible to build one on your property, and what types of ADUs you can build on your property, since there are several types of ADUs you can build depending on the size of your parcel and existing structure. Future episodes will include vital information on ADU laws, the permit process, construction loans, and other financial aspects. You will learn how to find and vet a principal, designer, or architect, general contractors and subcontractors who specialize in home building, and engineers you will need for the plans and permit processes. We will also review what goes into a plan that is submitted to a local jurisdiction for a building permit, the building permit process itself, construction estimating and bidding, and finally, the construction schedule and building the ADU. Some cities do have pre-approved plans, but many or most of the processes I just mentioned still need to be reviewed and most likely incorporated into the final plans where applicable. We will briefly touch on some of these processes in this first introduction video, especially on new ADU laws in California, since they can significantly impact if and what you can build on your property in California. Our goal in the video series is to assist in learning the practical steps to develop a permitted ADU, what the common stumbling blocks are, and some strategies to overcome those challenges. In other words, we will review the entire step-by-step process to build an ADU from start to finish. California has a serious housing shortage, and the cost of land, entitlements, environmental reports, biological studies, state and federal permits, city zoning, planning, and building department bureaucracy, the Coastal Commission, and some of the highest development fees in the world make it nearly impossible for home builders like myself to construct any new housing in California. What we are starting to increasingly see and experience now all across California are lots of new ADU developments in all types of communities, and in every pocket of San Diego. The housing dynamics are rapidly changing in California given the supply and demand of housing, and ADU permits have increased over 1,500% in most areas of California, thanks to new state legislation, elimination of development and impact fees, and numerous other benefits depending on your housing needs or desires. Thanks to recent and new ADU state laws in California, homeowners can now build what was once highly restrictive, or just not permitted by most counties, cities, zoning codes, local communities, and HOAs. Some of you might still be asking just what is an ADU, or accessory dwelling unit, and they are known by a long list of many names as you can see here. No matter what you call them, ADUs are an innovative, affordable, effective option for adding much needed housing in California and increasing the square footage of living space on your own property. The fact that it's a secondary housing unit rather than a given structural form is what defines an ADU. ADUs can vary in their physical form quite a bit, and there are many ways to add or construct an ADU on your property. An accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, is an additional living quarters located on the same lot as an existing single-family home or a multiplex housing unit. While they may be attached or detached, Their purpose is to provide its occupants with complete and independent living facilities. In order to be classified as an ADU, the living space must include permanent solutions for living, sleeping, cooking, eating, and sanitation. In other words, they are essentially a self-sufficient home located on the same plot of land as the primary single-family home or multiplex unit. Zoning laws vary slightly between each municipality, and the criteria that makes up an ADU may differ slightly, but the newer ADU state laws and backing from the state government has streamlined and somewhat normalized the process for all counties and cities in California. But there are still some jurisdictions, and especially HOAs, that are still not yet on board the ADU train. There are remedies for getting this corrected, and they often cause delays and additional expenses in some cases, but we will discuss this more in the ADU law segment or part 2 in this ADU series. So what are the different types of ADUs? They include detached structures, attached structures when there is limited land to work with, ADUs above a garage or workshop, garage conversions, which are usually referred to as junior ADUs, and internal ADUs, also referred to as junior ADUs. Now that we know what an ADU is, what is a junior ADU? Junior accessory dwelling units, or junior ADUs, are allowed to be created within the walls of a proposed or existing single-family residence and cannot contain more than 500 square feet of living space. Junior ADUs offer additional housing options in your home that can't be shared by a regular ADU. For instance, junior ADUs may share central systems, contain a basic kitchen utilizing small plug-in appliances, may share a bathroom with the primary dwelling, and all to reduce the development costs. Junior ADUs present no additional stress on utility services or infrastructure because they simply repurpose existing infrastructure within the residence and do not expand the dwelling's already planned occupancy. Most of the development and engineering fees and expensive school fees are also avoided when building a junior ADU. This is by far the easiest and most affordable way to add secondary living in your home, but it does not offer the privacy of an ADU given that some resources are shared by the main home. ADUs are cost-effective solutions and have many benefits. The land is basically free. Financing is available and relatively inexpensive. They do not require major new infrastructure. Development and mitigation impact fees have been eliminated, which can add up quickly. They can provide a source of income and pay for themselves. Rents are also very high in San Diego compared to national and even state averages, and ADUs tend to generate cash flow immediately, providing tens of thousands of dollars of rental income per year. And they can substantially increase the equity in your property and resale value, which we will review in more detail in Part 3 on construction loans and other financial benefits. Lastly, on the benefits, ADUs allow extended families to be near one another while maintaining privacy and providing as much living space as many newly built apartments. They are suited well for couples, small families, friends, young people, and seniors who can age in places they require more care. In some cases, you can even have both an ADU and a junior ADU to maximize the occupancy of your property, and this is becoming increasingly more common. Again, state ADU bills or laws are recently now on the side of property owners. Understanding ADU law and the rules will greatly assist you in navigating the bureaucracy within your local planning and building departments, and especially with your HOAs if you have one. HOAs have been such a problem in California that new laws were written to address them specifically. There are some cities in California and many HOAs that still think they can prevent you from building an ADU, or making the process so difficult that it becomes unfeasible and frustrating to work with them. But you have many legal options and remedies available at little to no cost. As far as Calprop, we have built great relationships in most San Diego cities that took a lot of time and effort, and we still have to point out recent ADU changes in the law to them that they might have overlooked or think they can bypass for a variety of reasons. Most property owners trying to build an ADU in San Diego will get some pushback by somebody who does not want it built in their community. I often have to fight these small battles on behalf of homeowners and investors, and I'm even surprised sometimes at some of the lengths that some HOAs and cities have taken to try and stop us from developing ADUs in their communities. It can sometimes require a great deal of patience and time, And that is why it is critical to hire an experienced home builder or general contractor who specializes in new home construction and fully understands the rules in the permit process, and not just the construction of the structure or improvement, which is really the easy part. The ADU bills that were passed by the state legislators are strongly backed by the state attorney general, and the attorney general set up a website to report local governments who do not comply with the new ADU bills in California. This by itself is unprecedented in California, and the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, has developed a program that has published materials for counties and cities to assist them with educational resources and familiarize them with ADU law. Bottom line, the state attorney general and the state legislature, both the assembly and senate, are very serious about the housing shortage and are responsive in removing any city or county roadblocks that are not in compliance with state laws concerning ADUs. However, some of the new ADU rules are still being sorted out even in the middle of 2020. For instance, local governments are not permitted to impose expensive impact fees on ADUs under 750 square feet. These fees are more commonly known as development and mitigation impact fees, and they include a long list of fees designated to schools, parks, public services, water and sewer connections, county roads, and city capital improvement projects, just to name a few of them. Now, concerning school fees, there are still some cities charging school fees, and some have eliminated them entirely. It is currently under review by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, and their position is that new ADU rules were legislated to also eliminate school fees. Some of you may have to pay school fees for now until it is sorted out in Sacramento, and some cities are charging up to $4 or $5 per square foot at a minimum. Be aware that impact fees for ADUs over 750 square feet can get expensive, but they are limited and determined based on the primary dwelling square footage. It is an important consideration if you want to build an ADU larger than 750 square feet. Now that the formal introductions are out of the way, and you know what an ADU and a junior ADU are, let's get started and find out if you can actually build an ADU before moving on any further, or at least figure out what you can build in most cases. You can build an ADU on your property anywhere in California in a residential zone if you meet some minimum conditions regardless of what is recorded in your existing covenants, conditions, and restrictions, or CC&Rs, thanks to one of the many new ADU bills that passed. 2020 ADU rule changes are statewide in California, and all jurisdictions must comply with them. If a city does not create their own ADU ordinance, then state law governs until local jurisdictions create their own ADU ordinance. If a city creates their own ADU ordinance, then they must comply with the new rules that we are about to review. Cities do have a little leverage to restrict some of what the state allows, such as capping off a smaller sized ADU, but they must still comply with most of the other laws the way they were intended. The first thing to look at is zoning, but this is an easy one. ADUs are permitted in all residential and multifamily zones in the state. We can assist you with identifying your zoning since we are also real estate brokers and have access to detailed property profiles and reports. But we have not encountered any residential single-family dwelling or multifamily complex that did not qualify for an ADU because of a zoning issue. Secondly, do you have the space or the lot size for an ADU? There are currently no minimum lot sizes any longer given new ADU laws as long as you stay within something called setback and public easement requirements, and they are fairly straightforward for most homes. They tell us how close we can build to your property lines. It can get a little confusing because some people have a different idea of where a setback begins and ends, and I will clarify it for everybody. More mistakes are made here than anything else, and they are the number one reason why building permits are denied. I have seen entire plans completely redesigned because a setback or public easement was overlooked or miscalculated. This can cost you thousands of dollars if you don't get it right the first time. A good general contractor and principal designer will work together to make sure there are no issues with setback and public easement requirements. It is critical to visit the engineering departments in your jurisdiction to review the street plans concerning public easements. Sometimes we actually have to build a part of the ADU attached to your main home because of setbacks and easements. In most jurisdictions, a detached ADU does have to be at least 10 feet away from your main residential structure or complex in order to provide enough access for a fire department to work during an emergency. Many property owners are required to build an attached ADU because they simply don't have the extra 10 feet. Before we can measure any setbacks in the front, side, or rear of your property, you have to first measure for any public easements. Public easements are usually located on the sides of your property facing a street, and they usually contain sewer, water, gas, electric, and other utility infrastructure on poles or in the ground. Most people only have a street in the front of their property, and corner lots typically have two sides facing a street. Some property owners have alleys or streets in the rear. Bottom line, if a side of your property is facing a street, you most likely have a 10-foot public easement that must be measured first before you start measuring for your setbacks. The public easement starts where the black asphalt on the street meets the white concrete, which is the beginning of the gutter, not to be confused with the curb. This 10-foot public easement usually encroaches on what you think is your property line 4.5 feet from the edge of the sidewalk closest to your property. The gutter is usually 1 foot, the curb is 6 inches, and the sidewalk is 4 feet. This usually leaves 4.5 feet going beyond what most people think is their property line. You can start measuring the setbacks after you measure for any public easements. Those who have corner lots, streets on the rear or sides of their property, or alleys have to be especially attentive to public easements. Now we can start to measure the actual setbacks. New ADU rules now allow you to have 4-foot minimum rear and side yard setbacks from your actual property lines, and it was usually 5 or even 10 feet depending on your jurisdiction in the past. This is great news for most of you. I am asked all the time where side yards begin. Side yard setbacks start after the usual 20-foot front yard setback. But most of you don't need to worry about front yard setbacks if you are building your ADU in the rear or on the side of your property. The new ADU bills did not touch on front yard setbacks, and some cities have even longer front yard setbacks than 20 feet. Now, for most of you who have neighbors in the back and on both sides of their home or complex, you can simply measure 4 feet from your property line on the rear and side yards and start building from there. This is all most people need to know concerning setbacks. Lastly, for the corner lot owners out there, they do require an additional measurement, but email or call me if you need more details on corner lots and want to build an ADU in the front or side of your home that is on a corner. Basically, you have to measure 25 feet out from where the curb flattens out on the corners of both streets, and then draw a straight line across your property to each endpoint. Some curbs never seem to straighten out in cul-de-sacs, and that requires negotiation with local jurisdictions sometimes. Some cities do require you to first measure out 6 feet before measuring out to 25 feet, for a total of 31 feet. Corner lot measurements are often referred to as corner lot site clearances, and they are required for traffic visibility. ADUs on corner lots are very common because they usually have more land to work with. Number 3 concerns minimum and maximum ADU building sizes. A local jurisdiction is required to approve any attached or detached ADU under 1,200 square feet unless they adopt their own ADU ordinance. If a local jurisdiction adopts their own ADU ordinance, it can somewhat limit square footage allowed under the state ADU rules. But local jurisdictions must comply and follow 2 restrictions here. First, no maximum unit size can be under 850 square feet or 1,000 square feet for a 2-bedroom ADU. Some cities think they can get away with capping off the size of an ADU at 800 square feet, but 850 is the cap as the law is currently written. They might be confusing it with the second restriction that states a floor area ratio must allow for the development of at least one 800 square foot attached or detached ADU on every lot. And this mostly applies to smaller homes or structures. Remember, an ADU is intended to be secondary in size to a single-family residence or a multifamily complex. Most cities have recently adopted their own ordinances, and most have limited ADU footprints as small as they are allowed under new state laws, but some cities, and the county, still allow ADUs up to 50% of the single-family dwelling square footage or floor area ratio to a maximum size of 1,200 square feet. Most ADUs average around 650 square feet, so the allowable maximum sizes will not be an issue for most of you. Concerning junior ADUs, remember they must be at least 150 square feet minimum, and they can be up to 500 square feet in your home, garage, or workshop in all jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions will allow conversions of your home significantly larger than 500 square feet, but it depends on the local jurisdiction where you live. Now for height restrictions. The maximum height is generally 16 feet, but it can be taller if it is attached to your existing home and meets what is known as the minimum building envelope requirements in your jurisdiction. Most jurisdictions do not want to diminish the architectural aesthetics of your structure or end up with an eyesore. In most cases, ADU roof heights normally can't exceed the roof height of your current dwelling. Bottom line. Two-story ADUs are usually limited to a height of 25 feet, and this can vary slightly in different jurisdictions by a foot or two. For most of you, building height will not be a concern for an average-sized ADU. That covers building size requirements. Number 4 is parking. And this is really a moot point for most, but let's do a quick review for those that it can affect. Generally, an ADU only has to provide one parking space in most jurisdictions. The parking space may be located within the setbacks, and then an existing driveway is tandem parking. Most people already have a space in their driveway and are already good to go. Parking spaces don't need to be replaced when a garage, carport, or covered parking structure is demolished in order to build an ADU, which is a big change this year. No parking at all is required for an ADU that meets minimum criteria like being located within a half a mile of a public bus stop or rail station, or if the ADU is the primary residence, like a junior ADU. On a street that requires on-street parking permits, but the permit has not been offered to the occupant of the ADU. And if the ADU is located and listed within a historic district. There are just a couple other important things to also know if you will rent or you will not live in the primary structure. Owner occupancy rules once required that the homeowner either live in the ADU or in the primary dwelling. Owner occupancy has been removed in all jurisdictions in California until the year 2025. Any homeowner who builds an ADU from 2020 to 2025 will forever be grandfathered into the no owner occupancy requirement, even if the state legislature makes changes to require owner occupancy in the future. If you are a renter, an ADU can always be rented long-term. A long-term rental is defined as a rental period that is 30 days or greater. Airbnb and other short-term rental agencies generally require at least 30-day rentals. And bottom line here is that your neighbors will take notice with people coming and going all the time if you do not observe the minimum rental period of 30 days. Those are all the upfront preliminary questions that I ask first and verify before moving forward and engaging any designers or architects. HOAs are always a going concern in the beginning of the design process, and they are only allowed to make reasonable requests concerning the plans per ADU laws. If you meet all the requirements that I just discussed, then you are all ready to get started on your ADU project. Please understand that ADU laws can be subject to change at any time, and all the rules and requirements need to be verified in your local jurisdiction. You can visit the counter at your local planning and/or building departments for all the information you need in your jurisdiction. Let's now take a quick look at the average cost to build an ADU. You will first need a series of approved plans before you can start estimating, bidding, and building anything. For an attached or detached ADU, it will cost an average of $12,000 to $15,000 to have a complete plan approved and permitted in most cases. Junior ADUs can average around the $4,000 to $5,000 range depending on the scope. Involving a civil engineer can add $3,000 to $4,000 to that, or more depending on the scope of work. But most people don't need a civil engineer for their ADUs. Civil engineers are required for things like deep trenches over 5 feet, retaining walls with deep footings, or significant earth moving or grading. You can knock off about $2,500 if your city does not require school fees until it is sorted out by the state, which is currently under investigation. Bottom line, it can be a little more or less depending on your requirements. That may sound like a lot, but a building permit involves a lot of detailed and precise work, and specialized professionals like engineers. It includes all the design work, soil testing and report, structural engineering, Title 24 energy report, erosion control plan, landscape design, permit fees, general contractor project management, and minor items like reprographics or the printing of blueprints. It is typical to contract for this separately, and it is critical that you use experienced and licensed contractors for this work. There are a lot of coordinators, so-called consultants, and unlicensed individuals or companies who offer this service, and you will have little to no recourse if anything goes wrong the way contractor and property laws are written in the state. Some of these companies or individuals even claim that you should not hire a general contractor to process your plans and permit, and that they are better suited to do it instead without a license or any state oversight. That is, of course, ridiculous and disparaging the professional home builders. Licensed contractors are required to have a bond filed and on record with the Contractor State License Board, and general contractors and home builders are held accountable when things go wrong. And they go wrong all the time because one minute detail was misrepresented, or not calculated correctly in your plans. I often catch minor errors myself that engineers and architects make given the large number of jurisdictions with differing requirements on minor details, and that's completely understandable and normal, and I am able to correct them before the plans are submitted for plan check. Experienced new home construction contractors are best suited to work with you and all the professionals who are part of the permit process. They know what can and can't be built, and they know how to work closely with planning, building, and engineering departments to get your plans approved. They also speak the same language. Just make sure anybody that is helping you with anything on your ADU is licensed in good standing and bonded. All state licenses can be checked online or by phone with the appropriate agencies. Be very careful here, given that this is one of the most costly and significant purchases that you will make in your lifetime. Call the Contractor State License Board, or CSLB, to verify if your general contractor has a license in good standing, or click on the link in the comment section below to go directly to the CSLB Check License page. Once you have your approved building permit in hand, you will be ready to start the next phase of your ADU, the construction process. And this is also a good time to start signing loan docs if you are going to finance the ADU. Unless you had to do it earlier to help with the permit process costs and fees that I just reviewed. Just remember that an HOA can tie you up longer than you might think if you sign your loan docs too early, and you may be stuck making payments before the permit is even submitted for approval. We will review this more in our construction loan and finance segment. Now, concerning construction costs. As of June 2020, the average cost of building a well-crafted, detached or attached ADU structure can vary from $275 to $300 per square foot. Our average ADU is 650 square feet, so 650 square feet times $275 is close to $180,000. $275 to $300 is a good number to focus on to build a structure that will last several lifetimes if maintained properly, like your own residence. This will include better than average building standard materials that we require our suppliers to source. By builder standard materials, they are the standard materials used by home builders like KB Homes or Lennar when you buy a new home from them, or any other cookie cutter home builder without any upgrades. At Calprop, we build a step above the average builder standard because it doesn't make sense to save a few dollars here and there to have an inferior product that can fail or weaken in a few years, like thin tiles that easily break, flooring that wears or cracks quickly, or windows or doors that don't open or close properly after a couple years. Junior ADUs such as garage conversions are much more affordable in the $100 to $125 per square foot range. While the numbers I just provided are average, they can of course vary on your needs, wants, and desires. Costs can add up quickly, more quickly than you think when you start thinking about higher-end stones, wood floors, elegant kitchen and bath fixtures, skylights, built-in cabinets, and everything else you can imagine. At Calprop, all of our purchased structural materials are made in the USA, or Canada that sometimes has better lumber options. And we don't cut corners or hide things from inspectors because we don't want to have to come back to your ADU in 8 or 9 years to repair anything. Major building systems. which are just about everything you can't see behind the walls, like the framing, plumbing, and electrical systems, have to be warranted for 10 years by the builder per a state bill known as SB 800 in California. It is just not worth the aggravation not to build it right with good to better quality materials and labor the first time around. This will be covered in more detail in the segment on hiring general contractors and subcontractors, or part 4. If you meet all the minimum requirements that we reviewed, then I encourage you to watch all of our ADU content that we will post on a regular basis. Or you can just give me a call if you have questions or looking for a complete turnkey ADU solution. I will do my best to respond to all comments quickly, and please subscribe if you can. Our goal is to reach 100 subscribers, which is not much, but it will be worth it if I'm helping even a few of you to achieve their housing dreams, bring families together, subsidize incomes, and assist others to avoid many of the issues and problems that arise during the ADU process. We are doing this as a free service, and we are not monetized or sponsored in any way, nor will we ever be. Again, please reach out to me if I can be of any assistance, or if you have any questions concerning an ADU anywhere in the county of San Diego. Thank you for taking your valuable time to watch this introduction to ADUs in San Diego, California, and I hope I was able to assist you in some way. See you in the next video, part 2 on 2020 California ADU laws, rules, and city ordinances. Thanks again, and take care.